This is not good. Worlds are colliding.
We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us.
And what the hell is that? You know, what is that? And I couldn't even talk. I was just amazed at what I was seeing.
This is the Beast of the Week podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Beast of the Week podcast. I'm John Cannon.
I'm Joe McGlinchey.
I'm Charlie Pettit.
And coming to you from the beautiful paradise of Manchester, New Hampshire.
I've got my sponge cake. It's me, Sam Harris. How we all doing tonight?
We're doing good. We're getting spooky. It is time. But before we jump into it, I just want to give a shout out to someone who contacted me, an author by the name of Tom Lyons. He writes a series called Living Among Bigfoot. He sent me a copy of the first book called First Contact. This is it's a series that's currently 9 books based on the author's real experiences with Bigfoot. You can get them on Kindle or on paperback, and they're also on Kindle Unlimited. And be sure to follow the author on Instagram at living_among_Bigfoot.
It's .com.
Yeah? It's fucking what?
It's .com.
I didn't hear you the first time. Can I get one from the audience?
It's .com.
Thanks, listeners.
What the fuck are you guys talking
I
about?
couldn't hear you I couldn't hear you over these beautiful crashing waves.
Oh. Okay.
Cerulean kiss
Manchester.
of the ocean.
Tonight we're going to be covering what's called Fearsome Critters of the Lumberwood. It's called that because it's based on a book that was printed in 1910. This is a compilation of really fun monsters that were part of Lumberjack stories, the kind of tales that tell, city folk and people wandering into the woods or just to keep themselves entertained while they're, fucking stacking lumber all day. You got to think about monsters. I had to make sure to put these pictures up on social media because they're fucking hilarious. You gotta love this. And this is a great example of an early cryptozoology guide. And it's also a great example of preserving folklore traditions, because I guarantee you if it weren't for this book, it's very unlikely that would be still talking about these critters, as they like to call them. And I really like that, critters.
When was the book written?
It was written, he gathered these stories. I don't know the full story, but my understanding is that he gathered the stories from lumber camps and, places people work out in the wilderness.
So, 2016.
Yeah, 2016.
Okay.
No, it was
1903.
Like throughout the early 1900s. This goes back to way back when in America. There's tons of stories that the type of stories that you tell to scare people of the woods and stuff. Those are the original ghost stories. Those go back to way back when we were sitting around a fire with a club going, "Hey, the lions are real though," and people are like, "You're full of shit," and they're like, "You're a gatherer, Becky. You only go out 4 feet. I'm chasing mammoths. I'm off on something." So
This is the plot. This is the plot to year 1.
yeah, it is the plot to year 1.
It is actually. I actually like the basis on which these stories ran. It's kind of funny because it's all like a yes and thing. It's all improv. So one person brings it up so yesterday in the woods I saw this crazy 4-legged beast with the head of an alligator, and someone else would be like, and the feet of a mouse, and they'd be like, yeah, and the foot of a mouse, and then they just keep building until they could convince everyone else that was listening that they both saw this thing.
Well, the thing I liked about a lot of the stories is that they kind of explain phenomena you're gonna get walking through the woods that's just normal, but makes it more fun. Like if you see a fallen tree, maybe it's the fucking Hugag instead of a tree fell down. You're staring at logs all day. You got to entertain yourself.
And it's nice that they're not trying to spook themselves. They're just having fun. They're just
some of them are kind of spooky.
Oh, really?
Not really, but they pretty much all of them have an element of danger to them. Just for the most of it's just to scare people walking through the woods.
Excited to get into
Fearsome Critters, Charlie.
So
fearsome.
Let's set the scene here. I'm going to give you the intro to the great Fearsome Critters of the Lumberwood book. I'm pretty sure it's actually public domain, so you might be able to just download it legally.
Yep.
So here we go. Every lumber region has its lore. Thrilling tales of adventure are told in camp wherever the logger has entered the wilderness. The Lumberjack is an imaginative being. Wait, hold on. I love that they make it sound like the lumberjack himself is
not a real
fearsome
thing.
critter.
Hey, they might not have been at first.
That's true. They interbred with like the Canadians to make lumberjacks.
Now, earlier on, we were talking about how evolution might devolve from what we traditionally think. Now it's time to bring up the new theory.
Lumberjack.
The lumberjack. Where did they come from?
All right. The lumberjack is an imaginative being, and a story loses none of its interest as it is carried and repeated from one camp to another. Stories which I know have originated on the Penobscot and the Kennebec are told, somewhat strengthened and improved, in the redwood camps of Humboldt Bay. Yarns originating among the river drivers of the Ottawa, the St. Croix, and the upper Mississippi are respun to groups of listening loggers in Vancouver Island. But every lumber district has its own peculiar tales. Some have their songs also, and nearly all have mysterious stories of vague rumors of dreadful beasts with which to regale newcomers and frighten people unfamiliar with the woods. Much has been written concerning the lumberjack and his life. Some of his songs, rough but full of the sentiment of his exciting vocation, have been commemorated, but, so far as I know, very few of the strange creatures of his imagination have ever been described by the naturalist or sketched by the artist. The lumber regions are contracting. Stretches of forest that once seemed boundless are all but gone, and many a stream is quiet that once ran full of logs and echoed the song of the river driver. Some say that the old type of logger himself is becoming extinct. It is my purpose in this little book to preserve at least a description and sketch of some of the interesting animals which he has originated. Signed, William Thomas Cox.
Mr. Cox.
So, yeah, he really throws it out there. Basically, these are pretty much definitively fake, but too fun to die.
I think mine might be dead.
Actually, no. Charlie's just pounding shots of vodka right now.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, I mean, that's the wind tosser right there.
Well,
Yeah, that's
If
the
we
old-
toss him back.
That's the.
If we might, another fake promotion. Tonight is brought to you by Svedka Vodka, making sure Charlie stays social.
All right, let's break into these critters.
Let's get into
So I'm gonna start off here with the Hugag, and we're all gonna butcher these Latin words, despite me and Joe taking 5 years of Latin each. This is the Hugag, the Latin name being Rhythmopes inarticulatus, which sounds like its walking rhythm is inarticulate.
Well, that does sound like that.
The Hugag can be found in western Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, and it ranges north into the Canadian wilderness to the Hudson Bay. It looks about the size of a moose. Given what we know about the area, I'm assuming this is an eastern moose, also known as Alces americana. I did my research. Which means it's about 5 to 6 feet tall, about 1,400 pounds, but the description in the book places the weight of the creature much higher. A young one was described at 1,800 pounds, and the drawing, which, it's just so good. He's about the height of an old tree. So,
Can we go on and can you do your best to explain what I'm seeing right now?
all right. So to try to paint a picture for the audience, this thing, so picture a moose. Start off with a moose. It's a safe bet.
Now take away the knee joints.
Yeah, take away its knees. Its legs
Yep.
are completely straight. Like, think of a Frankenstein walk. That's all 4 legs.
How does it lay down?
It
We're
doesn't.
getting
It
to that.
doesn't.
We're getting to
Really?
that.
Oh.
It has a long upper lip. It kind of looks like a duck bill, but I don't believe it's a duck bill. I think he just has a crazy old lip.
That's his upper lip.
That's its. I don't think it's.
No,
like
you're right. You're right.
That's
Looking
not
at the
some
picture.
platypus
Yeah.
shit.
You know what it reminds me of because of the ears?
This thing reminds me of depression.
This is what I look like when I'm depressed.
I think that's what I
Yeah.
think I look like when I'm depressed.
All right, so
That's what I think I look like now.
to start with the moose, now take away the antlers and all the fur on its head because its head and neck are leathery and hairless. It has corrugated, floppy ears. Corrugate, think cardboard or like those tin roofs and stuff.
Oh, like wavy.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem, I'm assuming it's leathery like the rest of the head. It has big old 4-toed feet, a long bushy tail, and a shaggy coat. So it's got a long tail, I guess like a dog, a coat like a moose, but longer, and 4-toed feet, which I think actually isn't that common for something to have 4 toes. It's usually 5, right? Like even dogs and cats have that little
Oh, it's that little
like
extra
thumb
thing.
nub
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
thing. I mean, I'm counting it enough because according
Yeah.
to this drawing, it is just a tree trunk up to the fucking shoulder.
Yeah, I'm a scientist. We count that.
Like it might not leave a track, but looking at this thing, It straight up just doesn't fucking have them.
It's got like Simpsons hands.
Yeah.
Now, as far as how this thing acts, and that's very interesting because it does not look fit to survive. It has a long range of fucking migration, as shown that it's usually in Wisconsin or Minnesota, but it ranges all the way up to Hudson Bay in Canada. Because of that, it's really hard to track because this thing can move much farther than we can on your average day.
With no knees.
With no knees. And it grazes on twigs and the bark of trees. I guess it uses that big old lip to like wrap around a tree and just kind of numb down on it.
I'm picturing that, and it's just the top lip wrapping all
It's
the way
horrifying.
around
It's like a giraffe tongue, but the lip.
I hate to be that guy, but that sounds sensual.
Oh my god. You know, it reminds me of it's kind
The
of like
ears are kind of like the creature of the Black Lagoon.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
they're fishly.
It's like
Yeah.
its head is like that, but if you were to grab its upper lip and just yank it down until it was about
It
2
loo-
to 3 feet long.
It looks like in a car, like Bugs Bunny if they're to grab his lip, and like when they grab their lip and it stays long after.
Oh yeah.
What it does is it can't lay down to sleep, as Charlie pointed out. It has bad knees. It has no knees. So what it does is it'll lean up on a tree to sleep. Now let's a story about the Hugag, which is how one would hunt a Hugag, which actually is interesting because in the cryptozoology community, there's a big debate as to whether you should hunt them in the first place, which, you know, honestly, I disagree with because at the very least, they're endangered animals. So the way hunters will go after them is they'll notch trees, like kind of like set pre-cuts into it with an axe on either side. So when they lean up against a tree to go to sleep, it'll crack down, fall down, and it can't get back up. And when it falls down, they'll go up to it and they'll kill it. And according to the book, one Mike Flynn, that's the only background I got about him.
Yep.
Mike Flynn in northern Minnesota killed one in this exact method. It was stuck in the mud after falling from a tree, and he smacked its head until it died. He just went up there and just was like, no, no, no. And then it died.
Yeah.
And
Just-
I don't, it...
That's got to be the most heartless way to kill something. Could you imagine that? You got to spend a lot of time sitting there being like, I'm going to get you.
Maybe who's putting it out of its misery, though? It's stuck in the mud. You see an animal
yeah.
stuck in the mud, it's going to die.
I mean, fair, but you think it would
I don't know,
describe how
man.
it tasted after that or something. I think he just went up to, he's like, fuck that thing, and just took like the broadside of his axe and just smacked. Because here's the thing.
No, 'cause it does say it smacked its head.
Yeah, in the book
Until
it
it
says
died.
it knocked his head in, and you think if it was a lumberjack, he'd have an axe to just like do it quick.
Something.
He was
Instead, he
irate.
just sit there like just was like,
All right, so the next one on the list is the slide rock bolter from one Mr. Chaz Petit.
I fucking love
All
this guy.
right.
He's one of my favorites.
my guy, let's go.
Let's go for it. Okay, everyone. Please feel free to butt in. I pray you butt in. Okay, so
worry,
we
I
got the
will.
slide rock bolter. It's slide dash rock space bolter. Its Latin name is the Macrostoma saxiperemptus.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so basically what you want to picture with this thing, if you don't have it in front of you, is a humpback whale combined with a giant ass fish. Like, I'm talking like one of those fish that you see that's at the bottom of the ocean with the huge mouths, minus the antenna on top, combined with a humpback whale. And so the special thing about this guy is that he hangs out in the mountains of Colorado, and he has hooks at the end of his fins. So at the bottom of the base of the what would look like a humpback whale, he's got these fins that have hooks on them. And so he's at the top of mountains, and he just hooks onto trees, and he's just sitting there, and he's waiting and
it's
waiting.
not just trees. If he has no trees, he will grapple these hooks over the ridge of a mountain.
Okay.
So he's big.
It's
He's
a
big.
mountain whale.
It's a
Yeah,
mountain
it's a
whale.
mountain whale.
It's a mountain whale with teeth. Because I don't know if whales have teeth.
How the
Some
fuck?
whales have teeth, but not
How in the fuck have I
Well, a
been missing
humpback.
that every time I've gone
Well,
skiing?
he might be dead. So
Let's
get on with that.
You know?
Yeah.
We'll have to find out.
So his main behavior is that he targets tourists. He does not like tourists, and so he uses these hooks to just hang out at the top of mountains, and he waits for the tourists to come by, and he unhooks and slides down the mountain and eats the shit out of them. It's I know that we were talking about before how these mountain people, not mountain people, these people that go into the mountains would come up with stories to explain natural phenomena, but I don't understand where this one came from.
It's like an avalanche, I would
Well,
think.
you have
That's
an
good.
avalanche,
Yeah.
like an avalanche, or you have microbursts in the mountains sometime, which is just a giant, like think of mini hurricane over one area.
Think of a giant
and there'll just be a
whale.
huge so a
Going down the
microburst is when a
mountain.
burst of whales. No, it's a giant like hurricane over one area, and it'll just down all the trees. I've had to hike through them before. They're a bullshit thing. Not the storm itself, through the areas.
Okay, so this
But
guy
it,
is a
it explains
microburst.
where like a giant sway of trees would be knocked down.
Well, that explains his skid grease, which is he drools and then skids on it and then knocks down all the trees. So that explains the microbursts. So I guess these hunters and they were running into some microbursts and stuff, knock down trees.
So
Basically.
Chuck, one thing I'm kind of disappointed is you didn't read this verbatim, because if you read this verbatim, it's absolutely hysterical.
Wait, which part? Go ahead, read it.
It's like the beginning what you said. It will unhook its tail, slide down the mountain, accelerate by drooling skid grease from the corners of its mouth, swallows people.
Yeah.
What a devastating progression that is. Could you imagine you're just out with your family, you're having a good time skiing,
Picnicking.
honey, isn't Aspen great this time of year? And then you just see this mountain, like this whale. You're like, first off, how on
and
earth?
One
So
question
you guys
I
are
was
all
having is
laughing,
how does it
but,
get back up? Oh,
And I've been wanting to talk about this for quite a while, but I recently took a trip to Colorado at the beginning of the summer. And we for the most part had a wonderful time, but I saw the slide rock bolter. And so we were
happened?
doing a hike at it's like Charlie, could you pass me the Svedka through the internet? Thank you.
Yes.
So it's hard to talk about, but so we were hiking, and we were at about like 13 heights in the mountains.
13.
It was up there, hard to breathe. There was still snow. And it was at this moment that we thought it was a rock formation, but now for the life of me, I know. God is my witness. I saw a slide rock bolter devour 7 children and a family that was probably...
It was a family
Yeah.
of 7 children. That was it.
The goddamn boxcar kids got fucking eaten. It was the last book, and it happened through this land whale.
Can we let Charlie finish, because he's
Yeah.
never gonna speak another word?
But
on this.
I do want to bring up a part from where we left off right here. How on earth does this thing get onto the top of the mountain? Is it one of those things where it's like a one shot, one chance thing? Like, you got this one shot.
No. I think it's just this one, so it must go back up. Like, there's not a bunch of these slide rock bolters.
Well, we don't know that.
hanging-
We weren't
That's
there.
true.
Yeah, we don't know that for
But
sure.
the name, I feel like the name implies that it's just one.
They all sound like there's
well, they're
just
all
one.
singular.
Yeah, that's
Charlie.
true. That's true. We got one story about the slide rock bolter. Slide.
Ooh, here we're
We
making
have got
connections here.
one story about the slide rock bolter. Sorry, I've taken too many shots now. It's getting bad.
Yeah, Chuck.
So essentially, since this town called Rico, Colorado, knew that it hated tourists, they filled a dummy tourist. So like, I imagine it's like kind of like a scarecrow filled with gunpowder. And they put it at the bottom of the mountain, and they tricked the slide rock bolter into eating it. And when it ate it, it exploded and leveled the entire city, or at least all the buildings. And I don't know exactly how it blew up. I assume that it has fire in its mouth or something. And so the ironic part about all this is that now Rico, Colorado serves as a historic tourist town. So the slide rock bolter would be pissed if it was still alive, which it might be. It might just be waiting until they're all in a big group at the bottom of a mountain, and it's going to get them all.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I could probably spend a long time on this slide rock bolter. This shit is so
It's
interesting.
prime.
It's because people can't even see the picture right now, but there are horses running on this frozen lake and escaping from this thing, and naked people running around. Like, what a scene!
I mean, that's kind of what Colorado's
scene.
like now.
It is what Colorado is like, yeah.
Naked people and horses running on frozen ponds.
Yeah. All right. The Snoligoster. the Dorsohastatus caudirotula. Now I'd like to emphasize, the stories of this monster do not reflect the opinions of the Beast of the Week podcast.
Oh boy.
No.
It is very much a product of its time, yet we feel it should be covered. The location for this monster was the southern cypress swamps in Florida, particularly at Lake Okeechobee.
Okeechobee.
Now, we're going to start with how this thing looks. It is like a giant furry crocodile. Now, you may be thinking, giant furry crocodile, legs. Nope, fuck legs. This thing has no legs, no fins.
I think those are called snakes, John.
Oh, no. Let me tell you how this isn't a snake. What it does to move is it has on its tail 3 bony plates that are shaped like a propeller, which it will spin to shoot itself through the water at its prey. But it doesn't simply eat them. Right in the middle of its back is a giant spike. And what it will do, it will torpedo through the water with its propeller tail, smack a victim, which will toss it up and impale it on its spike. When that victim is dead, it will drive its propeller fin into the mud, spin the shit out of it, kicking all the mud away, making a hole. And it'll like drag its back on the ground like a dog rolling in shit. And it will scrape the victim off, and it'll turn around and eat the whole thing, which could be animals, but it has a voracious appetite, which is only appeased by human flesh.
Wow.
Now-
Evolutionarily, what a shitty concept.
Honestly, all these, you know that? What is it? Like the Cambrian period, I think, where every animal is like, yeah, giant sloth, bear with propeller teeth, like, just fuck it. We're going to see what works.
How much crazier can we make this thing?
Going from there, a story about these beasts. Again, this doesn't reflect the opinions of Beasts of the Week podcast.
At all. None of us.
Inman F. Eldridge of Defuniak Springs, Florida, was once chasing after an escaped slave through the swamp. At one point, going through the swamp, he saw it impaled on what looked like a tree root. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that it was actually impaled on the dorsal spike of none other than the Snoligoster. Now, normally, when one would come upon this site, you'd say, look at this vicious beast. I should make sure it doesn't harm us. Instead, this is a quote from the book. These are not my words. Eldridge's first impulse was to shoot the strange beast, but upon second thought, he concluded that it was doing good work and was entitled to live on.
Okay.
Snoligoster, the slave warden of Florida.
And what year was this book?
Now, I don't mean to get us off the rails, boys.
Let's go there.
That's where we're going.
Let's fucking
All
go
right,
there.
because I don't think there are trees in Florida, so I don't know if this is technically a beast of the Lumberwoods. I don't think I've ever seen a tree in Florida.
There are trees in Florida.
Where in the fuck have you been into Florida that you haven't seen trees?
A couple airports.
Does anyone have something to say of the Snoligoster? I don't want to cut it off on me talking about slaves dying.
So
That might be the most
All right.
politically
So-
correct. Like,
I'll be honest. Okay. So this thing,
Does it specifically?
it doesn't eat just slaves. I have to say, like, we
I
don't
know, but it's very selective history.
I know it's selective history. It's really weird. All right, I'm gonna go back just to the physical being that is the
Sure.
the Snoligoster. So the thing has one spike on its back. So one, that means it has incredible spike eye coordination right there. That's impressive. It's got one singular spike on the back of this elongated toothed slug. So it's doing pretty well for itself. But as for
Do you really think that's what thriving is?
if we're gonna compare it to how I'm thriving, yeah, I'll do that. But as far as this thing goes, it's gonna flip over on its back, drag things through the mud. I mean, how much energy does that cost? And how often are you actually nailing one of these, like, whatever it eats? I guess human flesh is the only thing that can satiate it. That's got to be difficult. I don't think this thing's around anymore. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's got to be extinct. Had that ever existed in the first place, it's got to be dead. And if it isn't right now, then it should be. So this next one is called the Wapaloosie. Its Latin name is Geometrigatus ciliorectricatus. So this adorable little creature can be found in the Pacific Coast Forest out east in northern Idaho. So that's not quite the Pacific Coast Forest, but It's all over the Pacific Northwest, basically, and this thing is just a cute little thing right here. So, what it is, it's the size of a dachshund.
Well, I really should have changed these show notes because the literal text from the book is it's about the size of a sausage dog.
Okay, so I was actually going to say, so here's the thing. I was going to say, what is written down here is a dachshund, but I have written on my notes here, which I like better. It's the size of a sausage dog and has the feet and toes of a woodpecker. So let's think about that for a second. It's got bird feet, and it's the size of a dachshund. So what this thing is it's a dachshund, but it's got also like the head of it's kind of like a mouse. It's got big ears, and it's got the face of a
like
mouse
one of those
looking
like
thing.
kangaroo mice.
Yeah, like a kangaroo. It's a cute one with
yeah, kind of like
big old rat
it's actually
tail.
it's a lot like a chinchilla with a bigger tail.
It is exactly.
It's a long chilla.
It's a ferret chinchilla mix.
So this thing has a long tail and it's spiked as well, and that helps it grip bark when it's climbing trees. Again, evolutionarily, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but who am I to challenge God?
This one's fucking viable, though. I will say that.
Honestly,
this one is close to being real because you can picture some things you
Unlike
see.
Dart with Dart on back, you have a viable creature at least.
Exactly. So this bad boy, it climbs trees for fun and to get food, but it feeds on mostly tree fungus and mushrooms. So anything that's growing on shaded trees, it's its game. Honestly, it's what it wants to eat.
I want to point out how adorable this creature is. It's really cute. And also, it doesn't seek to kill. Literally, its whole thing is like, I want to climb today. And the next day is like, let's climb today, too.
What's on the agenda today? Well, I think I'm going to climb.
I think it stumbles upon fungus on its way to climb.
I think that's it. It lives to climb, and that's about it.
Ironically, you'd find a lot of these in Colorado today, too.
Yeah, you're right. Also, a lot of them Pacific Northwest. I think it's just a space for people that just want to climb and find some mushrooms. So that being said, what's interesting about this creature is the story that goes along with it. This little thing, it doesn't seem as menacing as the ones that we've actually just talked about. Actually, a lot of them we haven't been menacing, but this doesn't really totally out of the ordinary. But the story about it is most definitely out of the ordinary. So it goes like this. There was a hunter in the woods, as they are. As
hunters are wont to do.
As
urban hunters.
As there's urban.
Yeah, no, those are called Jeffrey Dahmers.
All right, so a hunter found it and had subsequently killed it, as hunters do. So, of course, the next logical step there is to skin it and to make it into a fine pair of gloves. So, what it did was it has these gloves with the finest fur available, aka from a Wapaloosie. And of course, what do you do when you make some fine gloves? You have to show it off to everyone that'll look at you. So he went into camp and he's showing all these people his gloves, and he's like, "Let me show you what I can do with these gloves." And he grabs his axe, and as soon as he touches the axe, his hands climb to the top of the axe. Of course, that would freak out anybody that has it, so he threw it down. And then he was like, "That's weird." So he grabs the axe again, and his hands go to the top of it. And so it's
not his hands. The gloves climb off of his hands.
Oh, off of his hands. Oh, I misread everything then. I misread the whole thing. All right, so this is even creepier then. All right, so then so they climbed off of his hands. They didn't have anything to do with his hands being on it. And it's really creepy. So he threw it down, and it just would keep climbing things. But the interesting thing is this: when it was last seen, the gloves were in the Pacific Northwest climbing trees.
That's really sad, because that's like the spirit of the animal just wants to go back to climbing.
See, I don't take that as sad because you know what it did in death? They always say like, oh, he died doing what he loved. This thing got to keep doing what it loved after death.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it can't be as effective as gloves climbing.
Dude,
as
they
it
can
was
grab
before.
the tree.
See, initially
Yeah.
what I
Yeah,
thought
now
was
they
that
are literally only
when
hands.
your hands were in them, it climbed. And I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. You could be like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But in this case, the gloves are selfish, and they only want what it wants for itself.
Coming up
And
on
now
next
it's climbing.
next week
Forever.
in Beast of the Week podcast, sentient attire.
Sentient attire. Wouldn't that be a really interesting topic to cover? I
There's
feel like
something in my underwear that has a mind of its own.
These gloves fuck wood. Like, yeah, loves climbing. This hat, it's a hat. Talks. I don't know, Harry Potter. That hat.
My shirt won't stop fucking.
My pants keep on getting smaller.
Anyway, Sam's gonna take it away with the Bildad. It's really fucking funny.
This is a story that I'd like to share with all of you about the Bildad, also known as Saltopiscator falcorostratus. It is, now we're getting local here, folks, so better grab those Friendly's ice cream cups and New England waters, because we're talking about Northwest Maine.
Wait. Is what? Wait, I'm so confused by that. What are you talking about?
We're just drinking water, man.
Poland Spring.
Hold up, I'm confused. Wait, is
from
Friendly's
Maine.
a regional thing?
Yeah, Friendly's is a regional thing.
No
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, people don't know about Friendly's.
Fuck,
Yeah,
I've
dog.
lived my entire
And
life in New
our
England.
lakes are also regional.
That's true, but you can't transport those. It's not a franchise. You can't franchise lakes, Sam.
So, if you've ever paddled around Boundary Pond in Northwest Maine at night, you have probably heard out from the black depths of a cove a spat like a paddle striking the water. It may have been a paddle. I'm just kidding, folks. It was definitely the Bildad. This little guy right here, smiling, got a beak, long legs, kind of looks like a rabbit that got its front arms broken. It has a paddle. The sun's behind it, so that's nice. You know, you listen. It could be nocturnal, but it could be dayturnal. It's about the size of a beaver. It's got kangaroo hind legs. Like we said, mangled short front legs. It's got some webbed toes, webbed feet, a heavy hawk-like bill. Now, what we have right here is a fishing mastermind. This little guy paddles around. What he does, he uses sonification to kill feet. He takes that little paddler, paddles the water, and it's either vibration or sound, kills the fish right out, stuns him, and then he just eats them up. A big part of its anatomy is like slapping things with its little paddle tail, but for some reason he was like, that's not enough. I need to evolve to be able to jump 60 yards on average.
60 yards?
That's why he has kangaroo legs.
60 yards.
Do you know how long
Folks,
60 like
that-
in a single bound?
Well, yeah, that's the thing
in
it
a single
does.
bound, that's 180
the thing
feet.
it does is it crouches in the reeds and it waits to see like a fish come up to grab a bug. Fucking Wile E. Coyotes it over there.
Yeah. They don't eat people, but one people ate him.
What?
And this man, Bill Murphy, which every time I read that, I think for some reason they're just like, oh, weird, Bill Murray ate this cryptid.
You know, there's such a circle jerk around Bill Murray, but it's absolutely true. Because if I found out that Bill Murray had eaten a Bildad, I'd just be like, good for Bill Murray.
Yeah, he was probably like, fucking, why not? Now, the fall one was killed on Boundary Pond, and which is pretty much in Canada, actually. They say Maine, but it's pretty much Canada.
Well, it's a boundary.
Yes. They brought it to the Great Northern Paper Company's camp on Hurricane Lake, where the cook, and I quote, made a most savory slumgullion of it. No, what a slumgullion is. It says
What?
right here. The fall one was killed on Boundary Pond and brought to the Great Northern Paper Company's camp on Hurricane Lake, where the cook made a most savory slumgullion.
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 I've
And
had
Bill
that.
Murphy took a little bite.
It's just a bolognese.
And then immediately went crazy.
Are you right about that, Charlie? Is that like a bolognese?
Yes.
How do you know that?
I'm just going to go with Charlie
Is
because it
it
does
because
sound
it
like a
has
sauce.
two L's?
He said that with such conviction that I have to believe him, but the nature of Charlie is not to be right on these things, so I'm a little confused here.
No, I read ahead.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right.
It's a stew. So, just the last thing I have to mention about this little guy, this little critter. If you eat a Bildad, you turn into a Bildad without the physic. Like, all you get is the jump. So, I guess it's like a reverse Kirby where you get one ability, and unfortunately, so this Bill Murphy guy, he ate a Bildad, went nuts, and leaped 50 yards into a lake where he just died. He just immediately died.
I like to imagine.
No one will eat them.
I like to imagine there wasn't even a drowning process. He just hit the water.
Honestly, you're moving that fast, like you're gonna die.
So,
Jesus.
One young Joe Glinch. Tell us about the squonk.
So this next one is called the squonk, Squank, and its Latin name is Lacrima corpus dissolvens. And we'll actually get to what it means in a bit. It'll become quite evident. So this thing has a very limited range. It's only found in the hemlock forests of Pennsylvania. For its appearance, it's described as horrendously, in all caps, horrendously ugly. So when you're looking at this thing, it's described as having ill-fitting skin. It has warts all over its body. I mean, it looks like a dog that's been told what's right here. You know, it's just disgusting, really. There's no positives to the way it looks. You know, all the moles and everything. But the sad part about this is that it's self-aware with how it looks. It knows how disgustingly just horrifying it is and misfigured and just ugh. So naturally, I agree with this, and I feel this sometimes, you know, and
You're beautiful, Joey. Stop.
Thank you.
We all love you. Don't make fun of yourself. We can do that for you.
So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm way more gorgeous than I give myself credit for. Anyway. True. So this thing can be found wallowing around and crying. You can track it by its trail of tears that it leaves behind. This thing is always sad. I'm seeing some looks here.
We're not going to bring up the Trail of Tears.
Hey, you just march on.
All right, so
that was perfect.
that's the best. Wow, guys.
Wow.
Incredible.
Hey, please
Incredible.
keep that in. You have to.
Shit. All right, so getting back to it, this thing is disgusting, and it knows it, and it's crying all the time. So what people would do in the lumberjack days of old is they would sit around a forest minding their own business, probably eating their white bread and tuna sandwich or whatever they had back in the day. And what they would do is they would hear a little, what I can imagine is, oh man, and they'd naturally wonder, what the fuck is that? And so they'd go off and they would see this just horrible gremlin of a thing in the back, and naturally, being a lumberjack and being curious with a passion for hunting, you want to catch this thing. And so when people tried to catch this, it would result in something very horrifying in its own way, and also very depressing. Is when it's cornered, it dissolves into a puddle of its own tears, and it just bubbles, and it's tears.
This is his defense mechanism, is to just cry until it is only tears.
That's it. It just breaks down. It doesn't even want to defend itself. It just goes, screw it. There's no point, and then it turns into tears. So the one story that we have of it is one J.P. Wentling, who caught one by mimicking the sounds of one, and was standing behind a sack. Apparently, it was just a little gathering of groaning there, and it felt kind of secure, thinking, oh, this is one of mine. Oh, it understands how hard life is. And then he got him. He got him into a sack, and then he carried it home. And about halfway home, suddenly the sack felt just light as air, and he heard no more weeping. So, of course, he opened the sack, and he found nothing but tears and bubbles, which, if you were to look into a sack of me, you would find nothing but tears and bubbles.
All of us are tears and bubbles at some point.
I was going to say my sack, but if you look into my sack, you probably won't find tears and bubbles.
There might still be bubbles.
But I probably would turn myself into tears and bubbles if that was happening. So this bad boy right here is one sad boy, disgusting looking, and what I'm curious is how does this thing survive? This is literally all the information we have on it, and it is sad, and it turns into bubbles.
If we need to expand the lore of Winnie the Pooh, this is Eeyore.
Oh yeah.
This is just like, everything bad happens to the squonk. And it just walks around crying. Oh, man. This thing's got MCR just pumping all the time.
Oh, yeah,
Always.
baby. A little bit of Hawthorne Heights on that rotation.
Oh, my God. I wonder if there's like if this is a metamorphosis stage before it was like a happy-go-lucky thing, and then like a year it's gonna be really into punk, and then all of a sudden it's gonna grow a beard and be like, I just really think coffee's better without cream.
But back on track here. So I'm just curious from you guys, what is the allure to this thing? What drives someone to say, yeah, I saw a squonk? What? First off, that's hilarious. And second, what is a squonk? It's just sad all the time, and it turns into a puddle of tears.
Maybe they're just trying to cover up for their own sadness.
I was just gonna say that like. Someone's crying like, oh no, I'm just sweating.
No, it's the squonk. Yeah. I heard some weeping in here. You okay? No, it's just the squonk.
The squonk's got me bad today.
That makes sense if you think about lumberjacks. You know, what if there's a lumberjack out there? It's like, I just wanted to be a miner. Trees. Fuck.
I feel like those two have a decent amount of mobility to move between the two.
What, miners and lumberjacks?
You swing a thing here, you swing a thing there.
One of them's in the open the air. The other one you have to have a canary down there to see if you're going to die at some point.
I usually have a canary on me to make sure I'm dead.
It's hard to become a miner if you're already a lumberjack, because one, you already spent 4 years at lumberjack school, and like
you're
you
in
try to become a
huge
miner,
lumberjack debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you filled out applications on LinkedIn, and they're just like, hey, this is an entry level miner position, but we want 2 years experience, and you're like, what the fuck?
I'm gonna start a community outreach program for kids who want to mine. It's called Miners Are Miners.
Oh, I see.
It was a good joke.
No, that was a good joke.
It was a good joke.
Keep it in.
What was fun fact? So there's a song by Genesis called Squonk.
Is there really?
Yeah, there is.
Is it relevant at all to the squonk?
So I don't really know how to describe it, because I'll say on one end, no, it has nothing to do with squonks if you were to read about it.
To
But it's
pluralize them ruins it somehow.
Squonks. No, squonk.
There have to be tons of them if they're all just like dying into tears.
Can they remake themselves from the tears?
Oh, okay.
Uncertain.
What if that's their reproduction method? What if we have these guys all wrong?
Would they have to combine tears? Like an X tier and a Y
Kind of like
tier?
how fish, like one shoots the eggs and one shoots the jism all over the eggs.
Oh.
One shoots the eggs, the other one shoots its fish ranchero.
So for Squonk, the lyrics, it starts out, it's like, like father, like son, it goes on, blah, blah, blah. But this is the part that I think is interesting. It goes, he's a shy one, he's a sly one, wouldn't you be too? Scared, this weird reading in prose, but scared to be left all on his own. He hasn't a friend to play with the ugly duckling. The pressure on the bubble will burst before our eyes, and all the while in perfect time, his tears are falling on the ground. But if you don't stand up, you don't stand a chance. You don't stand a chance. All in all, you are a dying race, placing trust upon a cruel world. You never had the things you thought you should have had, and you'll not get them now. And all the while, in incomprehensible time, your tears are falling on the ground. Oh no. So that's just one line from it.
Shit. No,
So
that's squonk-like.
That's
Do
a
you
squonk.
think Genesis was attacked by a squonk when he was a boy?
Can you be attacked
you
by
say
a squonk?
Genesis like it's one... Phil Collins was in Genesis.
But yeah, it's actually interesting. So if you were to look up cultural references, which I didn't find with any other of them, this has a very, very, very long list of cultural references.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
So it starts with in like a 1971 film. There's a dialogue in it talking about squonk and its attributes, which is really weird. You can go down to like the rock band Steely Dan.
Steely Dan?
Yeah, Steely Dan mentions
Steely fucking Dan, baby.
Fucking love Steely
Hell
Dan.
yeah.
So he mentions it in the song Any Major Dude Will Tell You on their 1974 LP Pretzel Logic with the lyric, quote, have you ever seen a squonk's tears? Well, look at mine, end quote.
I love it.
So this isn't just like a weird creature out of nowhere. This is something that
This is surprisingly
weirdly
culturally
popular.
relevant.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So, I mean, you can read down this whole list. Well, I'm going to try to
we'll
have
post this
something
list.
there. Yeah, posting it. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the third track on the 1976 album, A Trick of the Tail, by Genesis is titled Squonk, and that's what we just talked about right now. But yeah, you can keep going the whole thing down.
We'll make sure to link this when we launch the
crazy.
episode. I love the idea that the squonk is so culturally relevant.
Not only culturally relevant either. It's also scientifically relevant.
Really? Okay. I want to hear the scientists go off. Let's hear it, cop from Manchester.
All right. Wow. So I forget if it's called like a squonk molecule or something like that. But this is actually a phrase in the chemistry world that in order to gain a precipitate or if you're trying to, I guess precipitate would be a good word for it. A compound out of a solution, you can sometimes chemicals can have like a L form or a D form. A squonk compound is a compound that dissolves its own self with the opposite form.
It's just weird that the squonk has so many connections to real life, and people
love
somehow paid attention to this. But like I was saying before, how I got stuck on it, I think it's the most relatable creature.
Sam, do you want to take us away on the Hodag?
Oh, I would love nothing more, to be honest. All right, so in my thesis research on my good friend
Your
Hodag,
doctorate on the Hodag.
my PhD, I found out about the Hodag, Nazobactylus I can't read this. This little guy right here isn't little, he's huge. About the size of a rhinoceros. Now, Tom Cox writes about the Hodag. I believe this is 1910, correct, in this book?
Yeah, that's right.
So, before Tom got his little mitts on our good friend Hodag, it was an original Wisconsin folklore critter around the city of Rhinelander in northern Wisconsin. Now, Rhinelander loves this Hodag. Loves it. It's mentioned in Paul Bunyan stories. It's apparently in the original description: head of frog, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long tail with spears at the end. The picture that is listed makes the Hodag out to be pretty small. Whereas in the Tom Cox Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwood, we have a much larger creature, and I think eventually it evolved to being a larger beast.
Well, they say size of a rhinoceros. That's very different than the popular image of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
The popular image is like terrier sized.
Yeah, that's small. Yeah, in the very original ones, and then I think eventually Wisconsin lore, they have stats on the explorerhinelander.com. They got like a baseball card for the Hodag, and it's
for this town, it's a lot like in Burlington, Champ is kind of like a local hero for being a monster that lives in Lake Champlain. We have the Bridgewater Triangle here, and the Dover Demon in Dover, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. This is very much like that.
I kind of want to point out with its description being elements of so many different cool things. I would worship the shit out of this.
We like to talk about what these animals eat here on Beasts of the Week because we don't want it to be us. And you're in luck. You're in luck, listeners, because this little guy, he doesn't eat mushrooms. He doesn't eat people. He doesn't eat, plants. He eats specifically porcupines. Only porcupines. He's got a long rhinoceros horn, and his eyes only face upward. So, and the reason why being is, I think the reason why he eats porcupines is because it's the only thing a Hodag can see. Yeah, and that's what you got a Hodag in your yard, you're in luck. You're not gonna have many porks.
The popular image of a Hodag is terrier sized. I'd put these at spaniel, give or take, like a bigger dog. Like think an adolescent lab.
I think that might be a baby
For a porcupine with a
Hodag.
Hodag.
Porcupine. No.
Oh,
The
porcupine.
popular
Okay.
image of the Hodag is terrier size, but a porcupine itself?
Well, actually, no. The original little picture with the people all around the Hodag, like the captured one. Yeah, that
the
one's
classic
small.
one.
But the apparent like what ExploreRhinelander.com has is 30 inches tall,
Okay.
about over 200 pounds, and 7 feet long. So now we're talking.
Okay, that's very different.
Yeah,
we're
that's
talking
super
about that
different.
big boy now. We're
30
talking
inches
about-
is not that tall, but like how many pounds was it? Because that's a lot.
Well, it's 7 feet long.
Wow. That is very different than this picture.
In the picture from the Fearsome Critters book, there's a porcupine treed in what the Hodag is surrounding.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the Hodag takes his rhinoceros horn and he uproots the tree to get the porcupine down. Which, honestly, that sounds like something an animal would do. Bears do that.
This might be the most plausible one so far.
It had the most
In terms of
information
behavior.
in the book as to what it actually did.
But
Yeah.
does it have the cultural references of a skull?
Actually, yes.
Let me tell you, I've got an infographic up, my friend. These are just a couple, I'm gonna reel them off, couple Hodag facts. 1. Hodag tears make the world's best lemonade. Unfortunately, the Hodag never cries. The late summer...
That's like a Chuck Norris type bullshit right there.
With you guys, this is on this website.
No way. What the
Yo, I'm not kidding. The late summer sunset stole its color.
I love that it's specifically lemonade.
Yep.
That's hilarious. Oh man, I want to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't because it never cries.
It never cries, unfortunately.
How do we find out then?
Oh, well, you
Did
know.
it tell us?
Maybe happy tears? Maybe somebody licked a Hodag eye, because there's like residual tears in there always.
So you squeezed a lemon and some sugar in a Hodag eye and licked it.
Oh, man. You got Lemonade Tycoon beat right there.
Carry on, please.
The late summer sunset stole its color from the Hodag's eyes as well. So not only lemonade, but the sun jacked the Hodag's shit. When the wind blows through the Hodag's fur, it plays a perfect version of beer barrel polka. So that's interesting.
Excuse me?
If he tilts his head just right, the Hodag can pick up every Milwaukee Brewers radio broadcast. so that's important. It says here the Hodag is a scratch golfer.
A scratch golfer.
And there's even a timeline. In 1893, the Hodag was discovered. In the same year, Pabst won the Blue
Wait,
Ribbon.
hold on. 1993?
1893.
Okay,
I
that
might
makes
have
more
said
sense.
1893, which is the same year that Pabst won the Blue Ribbon. And let's just say Rhinelander, Wisconsin thinks that's no coincidence. The Hodag probably helped. So there's a big jump on the timeline here. We get to 1959. President John F. Kennedy received a replica Hodag during his trip to Rhinelander. It is said that he used the beast for inspiration while writing his inaugural address.
I believe that.
In 1967, now this one's important because it kind of shows up the
that's
physicality of the Hodag. The Hodag is actually the third string center for the Green Bay Packers during this year.
Are you just making this up as we go, or are you actually... Can you send me the link
I'm
to
not
make
fucking
sure...
kidding you. This
I'm
is
What are you?
on
What are
the
you
website.
reading? The fuck website are you on?
Here's the link. There you go, bud.
That's so fucking good.
This
John,
is
what is this website? I gotta look this up.
it is like pretty much the official Hodag website. There's games. It's pretty good.
There's games?
There's boys. There's games on here. All right.
Is this addictinggames.com?
Hodag's Den,
No.
baby. There's an app.
No way.
This is kind of like how they have a statue for Bewitched in Salem, Mass.
Well, I'm looking at something. This is a Hodag Country Festival, and that's hodag.com.
All right.
And that looks like a fun time. Look at this gentleman having a.
I think we're
Enjoy
going to
his time.
Wisconsin, boys.
We gotta go to Wisconsin now. I have a reason to go to
All right,
Wisconsin.
let's continue on this Hodag spree. If
Yeah,
you're
this
fucking
is wow. This is incredible.
this is the most literal fun facts that there has ever been, because I am having so much fun with these facts.
Well, no, I think that's I think that's for the most part.
You missed the point that the Hodag smells exactly like a pine-scented car air freshener.
Well, do you want to know why that is, John?
I would absolutely be beside myself to know why that is.
In the autumn, the Hodag strips the bark off a number of spruce or pine trees and covers himself all over with pitch. He then searches out for a patch of hardwood timber where dead leaves lie thick on the ground. Here he rolls about until completely encased in a thick, warm mantle of leaves. That's the condition which the Hodag spends his winters. Now we're back to the actual Tom Cox book.
Well, talking about Tom Cox, do you want to tell us exactly what the Hodag looks like? I think we glossed over that.
Oh, okay. I think
I know there's several ways
Tom
that
Cox
it looks.
Hodag, yeah.
Evidently.
It's about the size of a rhinoceros. It resembles the animal generally. Slow, unless, it's a center, so it's not really going to be that fast. But unlike the rhinoceros, very intelligent. Its hairless body is mottled, striped, and checkered, and checked in a striking manner, suggestive of the origin of the patterns upon Mackinaw clothing. So like the Lumberjack look, the Hodag had it first.
Like
That's
the
very
buffalo
important.
check flannel.
Yes.
Like your
that
classic
was
red and
originally-
black flannel.
That's the original Hodag look.
Oh man, we got Hodag camouflage. Mm-hmm. I'm wearing that literally right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
There you
that's
go.
exactly what it
You
is.
could rest upon the back of a Hodag, maybe catch a Brewers game.
Wait,
You wouldn't
it
even know.
looks- It's like
It's the
flannel.
classic flannel, yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, because I was looking at the picture of it,
it's
and I was
not
thinking,
colored that way. Now, the important part though is its spade-like nose, and that's how it does uproot the tree. So, similarly to the position a center would make. So, honestly, this is making a lot more sense. He's gonna get down on all fours, gonna get right under them roots, and just hike that tree up. Get that porcupine out of that tree. Eat him up. He loves meat, but only spiked meat.
Only spiked meat.
Well, one would suggest that with porcupine.
like spiked by like Gronk spiked, or you mean spiked as in like they poured alcohol in that? What do you mean? Or like spiked as
the
in
literal
thorny?
spikes, because they are porcupines. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Hodag. And if you guys ever have money to go to France or Japan, Costa Rica, I'd really suggest Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
So let's talk following the fantastic Hodag, which I could not be happier to know more about. We're going to talk about what is literally the last critter in the book of Fearsome Critters, the Tripodero, Latin name being Collapsophemerus geocatapultus. Now, collapsophemerus sounds like collapsing femur.
This thing is hilarious.
It looks like basically, it looks very sci-fi. It looks like a kind of lizard creature on very tall legs that looks similar to big birds. But so this thing wanders the forests of California, which is a very long range. I didn't quite get a definition of how far, like, is it Northern California, Southern California? If you've seen a Tripodero, message us at The Truth is Stupid and tell us where you were. Anyway, the way this thing look is that it has legs apparently like a kangaroo that lengthen and shorten at will. So basically, according to the picture, it's not exactly like kangaroos. They have two very long, straight legs that are telescoping. So in the same way you can collapse and lengthen a telescope, this thing can do to its legs. Its body is described as not large, but solidly built. He's a stout man, and its head is nearly all snout. It's the only description. It's got a sick-ass pucker going on.
Yeah, it looks like an asshole.
Yeah, I was just about to say his mouth looks like an asshole.
See, that's what you guys think. I was like, oh, it looks like it's whistling all the time.
It's just walking around with a happy
I'm just
tune.
a little more wholesome. But now that you say butthole, I see it.
You're telling me your asshole doesn't whistle? Should I see a doctor?
My God, let me tell you how much my asshole whistles. You want to hear zippity doo-dah?
Sounds like a canyon.
Oh,
Oh,
Dear goodness.
It's getting there.
so what the Tripodero actually does, because based on the picture, this thing is very different, because everything else kind of mimics a known forest animal to a degree. This thing, it looks out of, like, I don't know. I never read Dune, but it looks
Sesame
like it's out
Street.
of Dune.
Oh.
So what it does, it can telescope its legs, lengthen and shorten them at will. So this is very, very beneficial while hunting. This thing's kind of overpowered. What it does, it will lengthen its legs and it will crouch through the brush and it will search around, and every now and then it will lengthen its legs back up to a very tall height and peer over the grass and see what's around, and then it'll crouch down to sneak up on any animals it saw. And when it spots its prey, this is when the shit happens. It will shoot up on its legs, and from its cheek, it will shoot a clay disc. I don't know if any of you ever shot a shotgun, but usually your target practice with a shotgun is an orange clay disc that you shoot through the air.
A skeet.
A clay pigeon. It has these stored, 3 of them at any given time, in its cheek. And if it sees prey that it wants, it will fire them out of its asshole mouth and stun the fucking animal. And then it will shorten its legs down real low so it can run real fast and just barrel at the downed animal. And it will just eat the whole fucking thing. It's not descriptive in the book how it eats it, but I imagine it slurps the whole thing tail first.
How does it create clay discs to shoot?
It will come across, it'll be in like the swampy areas, and it'll put some clay in its mouth, which will form into a disc-like shape, which it can do.
So it just stores a bunch
it
of them in
holds
there?
3 of them in its cheek.
I think it's called a chamber.
Yeah, like specifically, it holds 3 in its cheek, according to the official lore.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, this guy's disgusting.
What kind of muscles does it use to use its telescopic legs? Telescopic.
Z muscles.
V muscles.
Z muscles.
No, Z muscles.
Z muscles? So like French muscles?
No, Z muscles, man.
Is that a thing?
Actually, yes, it is.
Can you explain Z muscles,
All right,
actually?
science boy, let's do it.
No.
All right, so there's actually a really interesting thing. So I just hopped on I'm looking at the cryptids wiki right now, and of course I looked up the Tripodero. But the creature is cool and all, but the most interesting part, and I would argue fun part, is right here in the comments with your fellow man. This is why you shouldn't smoke, kids.
This is why.
And then, so that's one. And then there's another one right here that I think is actually, it's somewhat interesting because here at Beast of the Week podcast, we like to think the truth is stupid. And naturally, that would mean let's entertain any wacky ideas we hear because fuck it, it's got to make life a little more interesting.
For sure.
So with that in mind, it's this is the following comment. It could be compared to a robot program to capture a live specimen. Only alien was it? And wait, what the hell? This guy wrote a word that doesn't exist. All right, well, basically he means the description is reminiscent of a machine, and he said maybe people last seen a machine and thought it must be a strange animal. So I'm sorry about that. This person, I'm gonna show you the.
All right, can
this
I
isn't a real word?
try to summarize this?
Please go for it.
Analysin. Okay.
Yeah,
So I'm going to try to summarize this just based off of looking at the picture of the Tripodero. I totally get what he's saying by it being alien because it looks compared. The rest of these resemble, known Earth creatures. The closest thing this resembles is Big Bird in the legs.
But that's only because Big Bird has like the weird
the knobs.
Knobs.
But
yeah.
the actual body is definitely very, like, I could imagine this thing stomping around looking for things in an alien movie.
That could also be yeah, exactly. And that could also be a counter. I mean, the tail's obviously a counterweight, but like with telescopic legs, it brings up the other thing when I said with like what muscles could it possibly use to get those up and down? And I mean, it could use if it's robotic, what's it called? Chaz, you got to help me out.
Okay, I have an idea.
What's
Hold on.
called?
Exoskeleton.
Hydraulics?
Hydraulics.
What if that's chitin?
What?
What if that's like a chitin?
A chitin?
Yeah, chitin, like a
Chitin,
shell like
fingernails.
lobsters have. Chitins.
Oh, no. Explain what the fuck a chitin is.
No, chitin. It's like a hard shell. It's the word for a hard shell. Chitin.
Okay,
Cockroaches, lobsters.
So
What if that's not the muscle part of the leg?
Okay.
is it?
That's
I'm-
it.
please
the end of my.
wait,
What if that is like an exoskeleton? That
Okay.
like weird
So it's
telescopic
legs-
thing.
So it's kind of like a lizard creature without legs, and these are exoskeletons. So we're going
what-
hard into the theory that's alien 100%.
I think.
I
so.
mean,
If we're gonna-
octopuses can grow longer. No, that's it.
What?
Octopuses
what did you
can
say?
grow-
Octopus longer?
Yeah.
Longer. Okay, octopus longer. That's one theory on the Tripodero.
All right, we're gonna put that on the board here. Octopus longer.
Octopus longer.
Do you have any other competing theories that is number one right now?
I have a theory, but it's not going to surpass that because octopus longer is correct. I actually, I met a Tripodero. I asked it, and it just went octopus longer.
And then
But-
shot a clay like fucking disc at your head.
This just seems like the most interesting one because I don't
Exactly.
I don't think it can store discs in its mouth. So you know what? I don't know, how many more do we have left? Is this it?
No, this is the last one.
So if I'm gonna
Hold
attribute
on, I have-
any credibility to any of them, I say this one's an alien. And I think it would be super interesting to talk about it a little more in depth, just because. Fucking look at it.
Anyway, just Joe, you asked the question about their what muscle would do the telescoping legs.
Yes, sir.
It makes no sense, but basically imagine them being as segments of bone with contracting muscles, and they contract the muscles to shorten themselves, which is why they have greater muscle control when they're stalking through the grass, and they're able to be more quiet. Also, how they're able to barrel at these animals that have been stunned momentarily by clay discs and eat them, in that the muscles are contracted and ready, like beyond what they'd normally be. And so the explosive effect of that contraction means their legs can move in a more, strongly.
Well, I'll be real with you. If it wasn't for that, there's no way these things could fucking move. Do you see this? They don't have knees. How
many of these animals don't have knees?
What was with lumberjacks and be like, it's big and scary, but it don't have knees.
You know why? Because you have
Oh,
to.
God,
Make it
no.
through this
You
one,
lift
boys.
with your legs. You bend your knees to swing an axe properly, and they're just like, man, I tell you, you know what scares me? Motherfuckers without knees.
No, seriously. I mean, this shit doesn't have knees. It would have to contract like up a little bit so that when it's at the right angle, it shoots out, and that's how it can barrel at these things.
That makes a lot
Which
of
would make sense if
honestly.
it's lower and then it's like shooting out extra long.
If what
then
it's
got
doing is
that, but-
contracting its muscle at each segment of these telescoping legs, it would create a lot of potential energy.
Sam, is that potential or kinetic energy right there? Like a check.
Aren't they the same thing?
No, I don't know.
Potential energy? No, definitely not. Kinetic energy, yes.
Let's go.
All right. Well,
Potential energy is like the energy that is. It's like dropping a ball from a hill. There's still energy.
I'll say
there.
that's what it's like when
yeah.
you're going down at a roller coaster, as Mr. Nyes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mr. Nyes would say. But basically, how about this? For anyone that looks at the Tripodero, which you should see on our Facebook or Instagram at The Truth Is Stupid, definitely comment on it. I'd love to hear any feedback as to what you people might think, because what the hell is with this thing? Actually, that goes for all of these. If you have any disagreeing
Except
opinions,
the Hodag.
except the Hodag, that is the most infallible creature we've had so far. The Hodag. I'm
For
getting
sure.
that. I might get that tattooed on me.
that would be really cool.
I changed that from a
actually.
definitive to a maybe.
All right. So,
That's smart.
Just trying to cover my ass here, which I might do in the Hodag. Fuck. Is there like a general theme we can pull up from these? It's like it's
No knees.
It's fucking fun. It's fun to be a lumberjack and all, but at the end of the day, having no knees is your livelihood here, and you really have to depend on those bad boys to get you through the day. So when you're thinking about knees, what's scarier than having no knees?
that is kind of, you either have monsters with no knees or way too many knees.
Yeah,
Way too
there's
many knees. What was that one that-
to mention? Yeah, the Central American wind tosser, which
Yeah.
was actually A log with too many knees.
The only reason this beast wasn't covered in this episode of Beast of the Week is because we can start and finish it with the fact that is a log with a head with way too many knees.
And this dumbest fucking little smile on it, too.
We will post this picture. That thing is too fucking funny.
That's a clown.
Unreal. So if there's any other people reading into these creatures that want something else covered, let us know. We'd love to talk a little bit more about a select group. I mean, I could definitely go on for days for some of these.
This is the most fun creature I can like. These critters, these fearsome critters are so fucking fun.
I'm still not over the slide rock bolter though. The mountain whale.
I think it's appropriate that the monster from Colorado will snowboard down the mountain on its drool.
Drool.
It just, I don't know. I don't hate Colorado, but it seems a little fitting.
It definitely seems fitting. I mean, God, that's the most rad animal we've had on.
Oh, it's so fucking radical.
Shreds it, dude.
I want to drop.
Shred it.
I want to
shred it, bro.
I want to drop into a bowl in that with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
Ooh, yeah. And you get like the extra points for actually eating your components that are just wet.
Yes, that would be a fun game, honestly.
What a great
Yeah, I'd
Tony
play
Hawk
that
Pro
game.
Skater 2. We should probably get on that.
Yeah. All right.
For GameCube or some shit.
So, are we ready for a closer here?
Yeah, from me to
believe
you,
so.
this has been a fucking show. God, we've gotten fucked up throughout the show.
Nice
All right.
closer.
Let's
Nice.
just-
Can I get that one again?
And so that concludes another episode of Beast of the Week podcast. If this one seemed more fun than our last episode, that was intentional. These are a lot more fun than the fucking rake. I'm a broken man from editing that all this time. So from us to you, we want to remind you that the truth is stupid. I'm John Cannon.
I'm Joe McGlinchey.
I'm Charlie Pettit.
And I'm Sam Harris.
Keep in mind, the truth is stupid, and keep your eyes open for any weird beasts that you might see.
And remember to at us. Always at us. The truth is stupid.
Bye, bitches.
Hey,
leave me a bar.
What do you mean?
Yo, I'm sitting here in the studio rapping about what we doing, yo. That's all I got. Let's get drunk and fuck someone up.
Whoa. There we go.
I think Sam just muted us.
What was that, Lil Chuck?